2004 murder of a man in a Minneapolis flower shop.
I'm so excited to see my family. It's been years since I've seen a lot of them.
Including his mom, who had a stroke several years ago.
That's been difficult to deal with, to go through this and not being able to see them, and just, it's been a struggle, but I'm just glad I'm here.
Prosecutors agreed with the judge's decision. There was no physical evidence tying Haynes to the crime. The case relied on eyewitness identification that the judge ruled was unreliable and unconstitutionally admitted. A rally on Wall Street, the Dow up 156 at the bell. America's listening to Fox News.
These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
What's up?
I'm tired of feeling so bloated.
That used to be me. Then I got this.
Align bloating relief plus food digestion. A probiotic, right?
Yeah, it works naturally with your gut to help soothe occasional bloating and gas. Plus, it has vitamin B12 to aid digestion by helping convert food to cellular energy. 2 benefits, 1 capsule.
Align Bloating Relief plus Food Digestion from the #1 doctor-recommended probiotic brand. Learn more at alignprobiotics.com.
Brace yourself for the ultimate holiday deal with Consumer Cellular. Snag an incredible 50% off the Iris Flip when you buy before December 17th, making it only $34.50. The Iris Flip is all the phone and camera you need with a user-friendly design, the perfect flip phone companion. Plus, you'll get nationwide coverage and always free activation. Score 50% off when you use promo code RADIO50. Head over to consumercellular.com and use promo code RADIO50 during checkout to score this deal.
A suspect from out of state is arrested in the stabbing death of a priest in Nebraska.
The Washington County Sheriff's Office reveals 43-year-old Kier Williams of Sioux City, Iowa, is in custody on suspicion of murder and use of a weapon to commit a felony. Accused of fatally stabbing Father Stephen Gutskill, a priest at St. John the Baptist Catholic Church in Fort Calhoun early Sunday. Police receiving a 911 call about an attempted break-in at the church, arriving to find the priest injured and a suspect inside. The Archdiocese of Omaha saying in a statement the priest was taken to a hospital in Omaha where he later died from his injuries. Williams was taken to a correctional facility in Washington County. Kristen Goodwin, Fox News.
Ukraine's president begins a visit to Washington, meeting with Defense Chief Lloyd Austin.
America's commitments must be honored. America's security must be defended. And America's word must be kept.
Tomorrow, President Zelensky meets with lawmakers and President Biden, making the case for more Ukraine aid, which is held up over a border security debate in Congress. American workers are feeling more and more stressed out.
Over half of America's employees say they're emotionally being pushed to the limit every day, according to a Gallup poll. Demanding schedules, long hours, mentally taxing situations, among other factors, are leading to employee burnout. The Occupational Information Network, part of the Department of Labor, ranked the most stressful jobs. While some positions require multiple degrees or postgraduate schooling, the list also comprised many low and middle skilled occupations.
Fox's Hillary Barsky topping the list of stressed out jobs, urologists, followed by film and video editors, anesthesiologist assistants, judges and magistrates, and phone operators, rounding out the top 5. Again, stocks finished higher. The Dow up 157, the S&P and the NASDAQ also in the green. And Lisa Brady, Fox News.
Hello again, everyone. Let's check weather for East Central Illinois. Champaign-Urbana is Saturday quiet and uneventful and seasonally mild to well above on temperatures, still driven by this moderate to strong El Nino weather pattern. This pattern likely to stick around at least in the shorter term for the next couple of weeks for openers. For the day-to-day, partly sunny skies, high temperatures right on target for the time of year at around 40. Light southwest wind, mostly clear for tonight. Dawn readings will level off at around 28. Bit of a gusty southwest wind sets on in. That'll continue for the day tomorrow, shifting westerly and high to about 43 with lots of sunshine. A few more scattered clouds tomorrow night. Lows about 10 colder at 23. Mostly sunny, a bit chillier for the day on Wednesday. High temperature around 39 degrees on a northwest to north wind. Sunshine at 46 on Thursday, 47 on Friday. Only mention of a shower is in here on Saturday with a high up to 48 degrees. Highs of 45 to 50. Overnight readings near freezing. Quiet weather pattern for Sunday and Monday of next week. For Stevie J Broadcasting, I'm meteorologist Greg Solgay.
And what's up? It is The Drive with Sam Piper, ESPN Radio 93.5.
Best pre-radio meeting we've ever had. Just right there. Initiate is a key word in sports.
The word of the day.
Gotta work, dude. Be aggressive in all things, guys. Basketball, football, transfer portal.
Boom.
Persistence.
Dating.
Persistence. Amen.
Initiate.
Yep. Exactly. That's exactly right. I'm excited for that. Pipes, you and I haven't done a show together in like 3 weeks.
We have not. What's up? How you doing?
Well, first of all, let me speak up to that as the mediator between you two.
Yes.
Is that you have been gone forever. I mean, you're part-time. Certified part-time. And we know insurance salesmen are always part-time.
Oh, yeah.
Except Kyle Lewis at IPG Insurance, one of our great sponsors here. We're going for the sponsors right now, guys. We don't want to let you to wait for it, guys. We're having our Christmas party next week. You're not invited to that, but we are being at the Long Branch Steakhouse on a very special night. But you can come Wednesday through Friday, 5 to 9 p.m. Come for the fried pickle, stay for the steak.
Let's
and, of
go.
course, Iroquois Federal, guys, for all your Linden needs, Savoy, Champagne, Bob Guido, Mark McHill. Just closed the deal with Ryan Lowry today.
Nice.
Brenda Crane. And who does the insurance? Kyle Lewis, Kyle at IPG Insurance. That's Kyle at IPGINS.com. Boy, the earliest sponsor shout-out we've ever done. Let's go. Okay, sorry. But we were talking about initiate. I want to initiate the sponsors immediately. Now, Pipes was gone last week.
Yes.
I mean, like the road trip of all road trips, right? Goes to New York for 4 days or whatever.
know.
How long were you there?
I was on the East Coast for about 4 days, came back for a day and a half, and then went to Knoxville.
Unbelievable.
Did you drive to Knoxville?
We did drive to Knoxville, about 7 hours, yeah.
Nice.
Stopped at a Buc-ee's. Have you guys ever been to one of
Oh,
those?
I stopped there in Georgia on my way down to vacation, and it was a madhouse.
Oh, my gosh. I'd never been to one.
It is like, and then the Bucky Nuggets or whatever they call it.
I didn't have the nuggets. I had the brisket sandwich.
I mean, it's like a gas station restaurant. Like it has a restaurant with a gas station and a rest area,
a store, a million gas pumps.
Oh, yeah. It's busy.
The amount of concrete it takes to make one of those things is astounding. It's Driverland Memorial Stadium. It's like, I'm just like, my goodness. As a real estate guy, I think about all the building costs. I'm like, oh my goodness.
Oh.
But it is so packed all the time. When are we getting some Buc-ee's up here?
I don't know, man.
I personally think their name is secondary to the Iowa gas station called the Come and Goes. Great little stores.
Yeah, solid.
Yeah, KUM and Go. I mean, that's a Hall of Fame name right there. I mean, my goodness. Right? I mean, I see people wear hats of those all around. They got the greatest advertising thing. For some reason, in Illinois, it's all about Circle K's and Casey's.
Casey's, yeah. I mean, we get that. Is there Hucks anymore? It used to be Hucks.
There used to be. There's still a Hucks out there by Clinton. You get Clinton Lake. There's still Hucks out there getting ready to gas up and whatnot. You know, but Casey's is fond of the Midwest breakfast, which is like a Pepsi and pizza. Which
that breakfast pizza is pretty good. I had that a few months ago. It's legit.
Okay. Well, shout out to Casey's. That advertisement was free. They're not a sponsor of our show.
Right. Can you tell Illinois not in the bowl game?
Guys, we are really looking for things to talk about. We're talking about gas stations initiating travel schedules.
I still like the initiate conversation, but let's move on from that.
Yeah,
we got to talk sports.
Let's initiate the football.
Let's do that because I'm anxious to hear from Pipes. I haven't really had a chance to, except you joining us on the show, to visit about Rutgers and Florida Atlantic and obviously the loss against Tennessee. Interesting that you're up 5, technical called. Then all of a sudden you were outscored, I think, 52-40, and you lose
a million free throws. Yeah,
and a million free
fouls. Second half got ugly.
It was just,
unfortunately.
At one point, I was in an establishment. At one point, they called a foul on Illinois, and I finally just, while everything got quiet, I was like, let them play! And somebody kind of started clapping. I'm like, just quit calling fouls on everybody. In fact, it was after a Tennessee foul. So I was being not even being a homer. I'm just like, let them play. I think they were fair with the foul. There's just too many. So anyway, hey, our guy Johnny Newton, AP All-American.
Sure.
What did that feel like? You were an All-American, Jay, your senior year. What is that honor like to know that you were being honored among maybe 24 of the best football players in the country?
Yeah, well, one, it's pretty humbling that you can actually get to that level, right? I think when you're a high schooler, it's like, man, if I could ever be All-State.
Oh, yeah.
That was like a line like, man, that means I'm one of the best football players in the state. Was able to get All-State.
Were you All-State?
Well, yeah, after you get an offer from Illinois, it's like, okay, News Gazette's like, oh, he's got to be All-State, right?
Put Layman on.
Have a 3-star on.
0-star to 3-star immediately, he's got offered. I don't think anybody knew about me before then.
Yeah.
But, 247 in their infinite wisdom, they figure it out pretty quick. Just give 3 stars to Power 5 offers, right?
Boom.
But I would say...
if Piper, my good friend, Derek Piper, would just label Andrew a 3-star guy in basketball, or in baseball and basketball, whichever, it would just open the door.
It would skyrocket, right?
Flooded.
It would skyrocket. And, they never take any crap for overrating somebody. It's always the underrating.
Exactly.
So they need to start giving a inflation of stars, star inflation. There we go. But as far as being an All-American...
I'll give him the crystal ball pick to Ole Miss, even.
What
There you go.
Well, what I will say is this, is I feel like personally I played better from a stats perspective in my junior year. Okay? Now,
At Illinois.
I wasn't an All-American. Okay? We were 2-10. Okay? So that hurts. But I was all Big Ten. I had, 150 tackles, 19 tackles for loss. I mean, that's pretty astounding for a backer to have.
There's no doubt.
3rd in the country. But we were also on defense so much that year. I have probably had 100 more plays. Well, you have 100 more plays.
Sure.
You're going to make 10 to 20 more tackles if you're a good middle linebacker, right?
Right.
So I had a lot less plays. We had a lot better team. And if you're a linebacker, it is so so determined by your defensive line, right? Where I think Johnny Newton's unique because, one, his team wasn't that good.
Right.
Okay? Not even a bowl team. And largely, it's all him.
There's no doubt.
All him. Like, I would even say that as good as Devin Witherspoon is, as good as Sidney Brown is, Johnny Newton made them first-round draft picks.
Wow.
To a degree. Made Devin Witherspoon a top 5 pick. I wouldn't say that he wouldn't go first round because obviously he's killing it in the league. I'm not saying that. But Johnny Newton contributed to that. But I think when you're a defensive line or an offensive line, it's on you to be an All-American. That's why I think it's so unique because every other position benefits from those positions.
Interesting.
I wouldn't have been an All-American if I didn't have Chris Norwell and Mike Ware and Will Davis and Derek Walker and Doug Pilcher in front of me or Britt Miller next to me or Antonio, so the safeties behind me. I wouldn't have been that, right? I also wouldn't have been that if we didn't win games. Like if we didn't go to the Rose Bowl, there's no way that I'm an All-American.
Right.
So I feel like I'm the beneficiary of a lot of different things. A team being good, a good defensive line. I will make the argument that Johnny Newton had none of those, which speaks to his greatness, which speaks to how dominant people saw him. And if he's really getting named in conversations at the 50-yard line at the end of the game where Brett Bielema says, man, all the opposing coaches say, man, that number 4 is really good.
Right.
Well, I mean, how long do those conversations last? 5 seconds?
Uh-huh.
Or maybe less? If it's between Ryan Walters and Jim Harbaugh, it's kind of like a slap. That was their handshake, right? After Walters called out Michigan. But to see that, that's why I think Johnny Newton's is far superior to me. And I think he's going to be a consensus All-American. Which means 3 of the 5 major AP Walter Camp Coaches Association name you first team. He'll be a consensus All-American.
I don't think I knew that.
Yeah.
The Walter Camp Football named him second team. I know that Johnny was not happy about that. On his Twitter said clowns in response to that. So
okay.
How is he not a consensus at that point at the high level that he's playing at? And ESPN recently, I know within the last month, put him like number 9 on their mock.
I wouldn't be surprised. I saw him at 17 on one of them. Here's what I would say about all of these All-American teams. Some of it's just a hype train. Some of these, I don't know how many people at Walter Camp, no knock on Walter Camp, actually watch games rather than just look at stats or who's the best player on the team. I think it's very hard from picking teams, picking offensive linemen. I can tell you this, when you try to pick all Big Ten teams, picking a first team and second team offensive line and defensive line, very tricky, very hard. You don't get the benefit of seeing highlights and whatnot. You're going to a lot of times go to Mel Kiper's board and see, well, who's he got on here?
Yep.
Right? And you're going to look at that stuff influences stuff.
There's no doubt.
I don't think people understand how difficult it is as an AP writer, AP member. I'll classify myself as a media member, although I don't vote on these things. It's very difficult. And I watch all the games.
I was going to say.
Every Saturday. And it's very difficult for me to say, yeah, this is going to be my top offensive line. So it's hard. It's really hard.
It probably helps that you watch with other guys that are as knowledgeable as you.
Sure.
So in other words, I think I'm fairly knowledgeable about football, but nowhere near to the things that you see when you watch a game. So I'm sure if you're sitting there with Howard Griffith and some of the other guys, I'm guessing that if it's unanimous amongst your crew,
right,
then they probably are a Big Ten kind of
Yeah,
guy.
no, absolutely. And a lot of times, though, success leaves clues. If you're running the ball for 2,000 yards, who's blocking for that guy? If you've
Exactly.
given up 4 sacks all year, who's the guy blocking for that guy?
Right.
If you shut down the top pass rusher and skunk him, well, who's that guy that did that? And so I think those are the things that have to come up with offensive linemen. Defensive linemen, it's a little bit easier. I think what's so shocking about Johnny Newton, and I think the Minnesota game was probably the most evidence of this because he doesn't play the first half because of the targeting,
right,
is how much he changed that game. Immediately, tackle, sack. I mean, just everything that he does and double team consistently. And guys, there is no help. Sometimes Keith Randolph was out of the second half of the season, wasn't in the game. I would say up until the last 3 or 4 games, Gabe Backus and Seth Coleman underperformed. Johnny did not.
Yeah.
Johnny was consistent. And so I think you look at Johnny and what he was able to do was astounding.
Derek, I'm going to let you talk. I'm going to shut up after this. When you just said that about double teams, I did the quick math. Johnny Newton is fighting through 600 and some pounds just to get to a quarterback.
Sure.
Think about that, too. I mean, every offensive lineman is 3-something.
Right.
And Johnny Newton is – can you imagine lining 2 300-pound guys in front of you and saying, okay, go try to do something, and
Sure.
he still is able to accomplish something.
What's so interesting about Johnny is a high school tailback, which is
I forgot that.
astounding. Out of Tampa, commits to Maryland, then
That's right.
decommits. And so it does show you, which I do think we're in Pipes will be able to speak to this more. I do think we're in battles for the right guys. We used to beat out Central Michigan and Bowling Green for guys. I think we're in battles, whether it be not just A.J. Dennis, but we're actually battling other Power 5 teams. I would say Maryland is a team kind of on our level that we need to beat out for players. Now, how is that going to continue in the world of NIL and transfer portals and everything else? I think that's yet to be determined, but I think we're at least in better battles with guys. We're getting in conversations.
Tough to replace guys like Johnny Newton and also Keith Randolph. I know that so far the defensive line has been addressed through the transfer portal. You had Clay Patterson from Yale jump on board with a commitment. I'm going to butcher his name. Is it Anise Sledge from Auburn?
Look, that's how I would have said it.
Is he a D tackle or offensive lineman?
They're both D tackle.
I know the Yale guys.
Sledge is a nose tackle.
He looks huge.
6'2", 311.
Sledge is a great nose tackle name.
Right?
Sledge.
Sledge.
Based on the guys coming back, how much could there be plug and play, and how much do you need the impact of the portal to come in right away and start? You think?
I think they're losing their top. Did we find out Daxon's gone?
He's gone.
I would say our 4 top interior linemen are gone.
Wow.
With Randolph and Newton. I wish Bryce Barnes would come out. I think he'd be a starter next year. Pride of Gibson City. Holler at your boy. The GCMS Falcons love. But I would say, and then Daxon gone. So our top 4 defensive tackles are gone. I think Gabe moves down into defensive tackle more because I think you're deeper at outside linebacker.
Yes.
If Seth Coleman comes back, I think Ezekiel Holmes has, I think, another year. I think Alec Bryant has another year.
Right.
I think Jared Beatty, they've been happy with what they've seen him as far as a recruit. Malachi Hood might have a chance. But as far as defensive tackle, those guys that we play, one of those guys will be a starter. Another guy, if he doesn't start, will be a very key cog in the wheel.
Yeah.
That's how much we need. I think we talked about this a little last week. It goes defensive line in order, transfer portal needs, defensive line, DB, and offensive tackle. I actually think we're okay at the receiver position if Williams comes back. Even if he leaves, you got Wiltshire and Beatty behind him. I think we're okay at the tailback position if we can get healthy.
Yeah, no, right.
That's a big if. I think we're going to be set at the linebacker position with Rosiak and Kreutz, at least in the front, the first 2. So I think we've got some pieces. In the interior line, I think we got some people coming back, but those are the top 3 needs that I see.
Can you force Akis to go to the middle, or does that have to be his decision?
Well, back in the day, you could force anybody to do whatever you
Right,
wanted. I
right,
mean, it was it was a dictatorship, not a democracy. You don't have a voice in college football. When I played, you did what the coach told you to do.
Sure.
I think if you can paint a picture for a guy and say, "Hey, I see you, as a possible NFL 5 technique, which is what Johnny Newton plays, because of your speed, your ability to play in close spaces, and maybe not the most ideal edge rusher. I mean, I just heard Ryan Day talk about their tight end, Cade Stover. Cade Stover played linebacker for the first year. And then at Ohio State, he was an all Big Ten tight end this year. And Ryan Day said, hey, I think I can make you an NFL tight end. Would you consider making the switch? Well, if this guy says I'm going to be an NFL tight end, which, by the way, he's going to be an NFL tight end, and I can make more money doing that and set up my future, yeah, I'm going to do that. Now, if you're a guy like me who could literally only play linebacker,
right,
you just have to stay there and hope you can win one of those spots, right?
Makes sense.
So I think you can persuade guys. I also think that with the transfer portal, you have to be careful because it's more, there's so many more player options out there.
You mentioned Seth Coleman being a factor maybe in that decision. Maybe he moves inside regardless of what Seth Coleman does. But 6 sacks for him. Should we worry much about him going to the next level, or what level of concern would there be that you would lose Seth Coleman? It seems like he is still somebody that's trying to make that decision.
I think Seth athletically has always looked the part. I mean, he's 6'4", long, able to get his hands up on short throws, able to beat guys around the edge. I think it's been a matter of consistency. Some games you'll go and like, man, was Seth Coleman playing? In other games, you're like, man, Seth Coleman's tearing it up. As a defender, I'll never forget this. I was trying to make football teams, and I was talking to in the NFL, and I never forgot when somebody told me the best advice I've ever got making a football team was, it's not the coach's job to notice you. It's your job to have the coach notice you, especially on defense. You don't have set plays for you, right? It's not like, hey, on this route, the ball's I'm the number one option. The ball's going to come to me. And what's so hard is when you're trying to make a football team or trying to break into a starting alignment is you can go outside the framework of the defense, try to do too much, and have big mistakes. Where how can I ride that balance of playing and doing my job, but being a playmaker on defense? I think that's really hard. I think Seth has gone back and forth on, hey, I can do my job and be out there. Sometimes I can be a playmaker. What makes you elite is I always do my job and I flash and make 2 or 3 big plays a game to change the game. And that's when you become an elite player. And I think Seth, to be an elite player, needs to take that step where he shows up every game. Johnny Newton, you knew he was on the field every game.
Oh, there's no doubt.
No, every game.
No doubt.
And you can't just be a defender that's just out there. You've got to create havoc when you're a defensive player.
Makes sense. Unless
you're like Devin Witherspoon, who just erased another corner. And like, is Devin Witherspoon this other receiver playing? Because like there'd be no stats for any of them because the ball never went that way, right? No. So that's a different category. So
there was news, I believe, over the weekend. Taz Nicholson had gone into the portal, is already committed to Ole Miss. Kenoto Hudson, the defensive backs coach that recruited him to Illinois, now has him at Ole Miss. I don't think Illinois fans, based on how highly penalized Taz was last year, and obviously the spitting incident as well, are probably too mad about him moving on. Although it's another loss it's a loss from a position where you're already pretty weak. What do you make of that?
I mean, he's our most experienced corner,
right?
It's never been about the talent of Taz Nicholson. Now, I do think he was a better number 2 corner when you had a Witherspoon taking care of everybody that was the top guy, and you let Taz get the secondary guy and not be, on an island nearly as much. I think with Taz, he struggled with a lot of injuries. I think that even if you get better, I think that affects you as you get banged up over time. And I just feel like he had boiled over frustration. When I watched him play, it felt like a frustrated player. A lot of defensive pass interferences, a lot of personal fouls. I think it's probably best for both parties, Taz and Illinois, that he moves on. That being said, you're really starting with nobody that has experience other than Xavier Scott and a little bit of Matthew Bailey.
Right.
We act like Matthew Bailey has a lot of experience. Dude, he played behind Quan Martin and Sidney Brown.
Right.
He doesn't have that much experience. We've got Xavier Scott, really, and that's why I want to get somebody in the back end at a corner, at a nickel position, at a safety that we can rely on, because, guys, we cannot play the defense that Aaron Henry wants to play with our back end right now. We got to make a change as far as scheme-wise.
Right.
On that note, you mentioned, Matthew Bailey will be a projected starter going into next year. Xavier Scott, I would imagine, same thing. It'll be interesting to see what Demetrius Hill turns out to be. Will he be more impactful or solidified as a guy that's in the program for another year? But how much of an impact needs to be made in the portal in the defensive backfield? Is it 2 guys that need to be starter quality? Is it 1 for sure? How do you foresee that? I know you've mentioned Toby as another guy that can be a good player down the line, or maybe even as soon as next year. Do you need 2 splash guys? Is 1 going to cut it? What do you think?
I think you'd ideally want 2. Glenn Mason, you just say, I always take a pair and a spare, so I'll take 3 too, right? I mean, but I
pair and a spare. I like that.
He would say that about running backs. We need that in defensive, and we saw that we need that in running backs, right?
Yes,
a pair and a spare, right? He used to have, Barber, Maroney, and he had a guy named Russell, I think, who was a really good player as well. But that was a pair and a spare. But I think on the defensive backfield, who do you have confidence with? I mean, I have confidence that Xavier Scott's going to compete. He had to play out of position a lot as far as had to move to corner from safety because we had a lot of issues. But if I look at the DBs, kind of like what Lon was saying about Damask, he's like, I have confidence when he has the ball in his hands. He's going to do the right thing. When you look at the DBs, there ain't many people you have confidence, like I have confidence in that guy that he's going to do the right thing.
Right.
You have a nervousness of like, okay, there's a DPI coming, there's this coming. We got to get somebody that the coaches believe in, and it's their job. I wish we got 2. I wish we got a safety in a corner, and I hope that one of those guys could go into the nickel. I talked about this a little bit on Jeremy Warner's podcast. The nickel position has gotten so important. Part of the reason we're seeing Pete Carroll put Devin Witherspoon at the nickel position for the Seahawks is a lot of times for years they would move the number 3 receiver in on a linebacker. That's the 3rd receiver in from the sideline because it matches them up on a linebacker. They would keep the corner outside. I'm not saying it's easy to play corner. I'm just saying when you have the sideline and the ball has to travel 30 yards to get there,
that's a good point.
You make the field and the box that you have to guard much smaller, where if I bring that receiver in on the hash mark and I've got to guard that guy in space as a linebacker, you're going to be in trouble. Part of the reason I'm sitting here talking to you and not in the NFL today is I could not guard that inside receiver for the life of me. When it got to that, it was brutal. Well, now they've just decided, shoot, we'll take the linebacker off the field.
Right.
Let's put the nickel in. Devin Witherspoon plays it. We need to find Quan Martin played it for us last year, not this year. But because what they're going to do is they're going to do an option route. An option route is the option to go inside or outside. You see Isaiah Williams run this route a lot on 3rd down for 5 yards. He'll do a 5-yard out. If they overplay the outside, do a 5-yard in. Impossible for a linebacker to guard. Or a defensive lineman will bat the pass down. We saw that against Iowa. We saw that against Northwestern.
Yep.
That's why you have to get your hands up as a D lineman to help defend against that play because it's a quick hitting route. Can't get there as a pass rush. But that nickel position has got to guard that. You got to have somebody athletic enough to guard an Isaiah Williams, or else you're going to get picked apart and your 3rd down averages are going to be horrible as a defense. You'll give up 60, 70% on 3rd down just on that play alone. So that's a deep dive technical breakdown of why the nickel position is so important in today's football game.
That was impressive. I'm not kidding. That's A-plus stuff right there, Jay Lehman.
Well, when you get fired in the NFL because you can't cover that, you start to do an in-depth thesis. I went to U of I. I said, could I do a PhD on why linebackers get fired in the NFL? Because you can't play on 3rd down, son. Just like a back can't play on 3rd down because they can't block.
Right.
Dude, if you can't cover somebody in the NFL, you can't play linebacker.
No.
It's just not going to happen unless you're Ray Lewis and you can actually just do whatever you want.
Exactly, yeah. Just do. All right,
now you see so many more number 1 receivers lining up in the slot.
Yeah,
100%. Yeah, they started doing that. They used to call us Midwest Mikes, basically slow Mike linebackers, right? And, hey, these guys are really inside the box. In zone coverage, they can kind of hold their own,
Yeah.
It's kind of like that basketball player that can kind of like, okay, well, if you just kind of leave him alone, he won't necessarily hurt you that much. But, man, if you get in his grill and, like, make him ball handle, it gets tough, right? So it's kind of like that with a Midwest Mike. If you put him in man coverage or matchup zone coverage where he's got to guard somebody other than a tight end or fullback,
trouble.
Man, you better hope you get a sack on the quarterback
right.
because it could be a touchdown over the top, right? And so that's the thing you got to work through. They're always looking for matchups to get their best receiver on your worst cover guy.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right, before break, I've got one. You listed defensive line, cornerback, tackle.
Offensive tackle, yes.
Offensive tackle as your 3. That's the order. What if I tried to argue that point real quick with this?
Go ahead.
I think next year Illinois has the potential to be really explosive offensively. I don't see the defense being that good. I feel like, in other words, we're going to have to outscore people. So could I force the offensive tackle up a spot on your list by telling you that is obviously a huge need? You're going to have Henderson, is that his name? That's going to probably play one.
Yep.
And then you tried a couple of these guys at tackle last year that didn't really work that well. Could I persuade you in an argument to say I would rather just bolster as much of the offense as I can and hope that we outscore people? Because I just don't – I see a lot of holes in that defense. And from what I saw this year out of it, I mean, Aaron Henry's got a lot to learn. I know he lost a lot. And look, it was his first year. I mean, I'm sure I was – well, I know I'm not better now than I probably was my first year on the radio, but I'm pretty lazy now. But, 4 or 5 years down the road, you're going to be better than what you were your first go-around on whatever.
Right.
So could I convince you to move tackle up?
I think you could, because, I mean, you look at how when our tackles played bad, how bad our offense was the first 6 games, right? Horrible. When we could not get consistency out there. And maybe you move Zy back out there, and hopefully he could be better if he's healthy long-term there. I would say yes, because I think the hardest thing is to get good up front for any team. So that's why I say defensive tackle. And offensive tackle I could put there, but, man, after so many DPIs that we had and so many big plays given up, I mean, guys, we gave up over 40 to Indiana and Northwestern.
That's crazy.
I don't care how good your offense is. We couldn't even win one of those games. We even haven't scored.
I mean, that's disgusting.
We had to have a Memorial Stadium record throwing to beat Indiana. That's not good.
Yeah.
So I would say yes. I could see the tackles going up. I think you got to keep Altmaier healthy. Again, guys, every year, we go back historically, last 3-4 years, we've always had to use the backup quarter. DeVito had to get replaced with Sikowski, Iowa game. Peters had to get replaced with Sikowski in 2020. There's always a backup quarterback playing, so you're going to need a decent backup. I think Leary can be that guy, or Michaud, or whoever. I don't know if Michaud is even around anymore, but whoever's there.
I got it.
My counter to moving up tackle would be you're losing an All-American off of a defense to get 30 points a game. And then you're also losing another NFL guy up front off a defense to give up 30 points a game. And if you just ran it back with that secondary, oh, wait, Taz is gone. Although I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
-2 penalties a game now, so we're good. Okay, so take 2 penalties off the board.
DB has to be, if you don't make 2 splash additions there.
That's fair.
And sure up front on the defense. Like, you're going to give up.
Oh, tackle for sure is my number one.
You're going to give up a ton. I mean, you're going to get lit up every afternoon.
And
every afternoon, you're right.
And defense historically travels.
Chicks dig offense, Pipes.
They do. Can you outscore Oregon?
I mean.
Oh my God! Don't even bring that scenario.
Here's the deal: offense puts fans in the stands, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think at the Indiana game they had a good. There's fans, right? They're like it. But defense travel when the weather gets bad.
Yes,
you got to have a
that's
defense in a
fair.
run game.
Well, look at Iowa this year, right?
Dude, if you got a defense, you could have. If just having a defense, Iowa won the West.
Yep.
That's it. I mean, the West is gone, but
okay. We have to take a break. One last, Bailey. If he's as good as everybody says, and he was pretty good when he was in there that 20 minutes or whatever.
Plays.
Yeah, 4 plays. How much can that hide? Can that hide not over a whole season being pretty weak at corner?
Here's the thing. I think if you have one good player at every level, I think you can have a good defense in college. I think if you have 2 or 3, you can have a dominant defense, and that's what we had. Basically 2 or 3 dominant DBs and 2 D linemen in 2022, and you had a dominant D. And even Tariq Barnes played really well in 2022. And so I think you can hide some of it, but again, football, especially college football, has become a game of matchups more than just a whole team. And just like NFL, we're going to find your weakest link, and we are going to touch that over and over and over again.
No doubt.
What did they do with Donovan McCulley against Indiana? They just said, okay, Taz is 5'10", McCulley's 6'5", let's just throw it up to him. Now it's just, and instead of 11-on-11, it's 1-on-1. We're just going to throw it up. And guess what? We gave up 160 yards passing to Donovan McCulley and also 100 yards in penalties.
Mm-hmm. And every Indiana receiver's in the portal now.
Are they really?
I think there are like 500. And of course,
I'll take Cam Camper, McCulley, and Jalen Lucas. Well, I'll take those guys. When we come back, let's talk transfer portal, because that as Lon would say, that's fair.
That's fair.
And we will knock it out. And I will say, right? Okay, there we go. When we got Leon saying fair and Jay saying right and Pipes just nodding in agreement, we're all good. Let's go.
We're on the right page. If you want to win, you can. 217-359-2255 on the U of I Illini League text line. Maybe the longest first segment we've had with Jay,
Ever.
but worth it. This is
Yeah,
the drive.
buddy.
You have money laying all around your house. You just don't know it. And no, I don't mean selling your great-grandma's good china. I mean all the old metal items you don't want to use or get rid of. Don't pay someone to haul it away. Bring it into Max Twin City Recycling and get paid to have it taken off your hands. They love new customers and are more than willing to walk you through their process step by step. Come check them out at 2808 North Lincoln Avenue in Urbana.
Starting it over is what we do at Max Twin City Recycling.
What is it? What do you see? What do you hear? I see our friend everywhere I look. I hear his voice spoken through others, spoken in a little child's laughter, spoken in a magnificent sunset painted in the sky, or his voice spoken when someone praises his name. We have this best friend for eternity who has the control. He has the whole world in his hands, and he offers forgiveness of all wrongs, offers healing, guidance, hope for today, hope for tomorrow, and all eternity. But his most valuable gift? Unconditional love. And allow me to introduce Jesus Christ, our Savior, our salvation, our friend. Just reach out. Jesus will put his arms around you and offer comfort, strength, and courage for all eternity. He only asks for your love, willingness to help others, and a dedicated commitment to walk with him. It is really that simple. Live a life with hope.
The hammering, the sawing, the drilling, all the sounds of the workplace are music to our ears. You can be a part of construction projects large and small as a Carpenters Local 243 member. Learn to excel with apprentice and journeyman training. Members enjoy all the benefits this internationally recognized union has to offer. It's a life-changing decision. Join the Local 243 family tradition. Contact Carpenters Local 243 at 217-356-5463.
These days, it seems like bank names are changing faster than a forecast in February. But at Iroquois Federal, we're still the same community bank we've always been. For more than 135 years, we've built relationships by helping build the things that matter, whether it's a business, a back porch, or the building blocks of a better life. If you're looking for a bank that's here for the long haul, swing by today and see for yourself why different rules. Iroquois Federal, still friendly, still local, still here.
You moved into your new home using 2 men in a truck. The garage was clean. Then,
I love the new recliner. What are we going to do with this old one?
Put it in the garage for now.
over time, this cycle continued.
Garage for now. Put it in the garage for now. Put it in the garage for now. Put it in the garage for now.
It happens. You got junk. Call 2 Men in a Truck to get rid of all your junk. Residential or commercial, 2 Men in a Truck has a solution for your junk removal. Contact them at 2menchampagne.com.
2 men in a truck.
Illini fans, taste what's special about Jets Pizza by ordering any of their specialty pizzas for $5 off. That's right, save $5 on all specialty pizzas like the barbecue chicken pizza, chicken grilled to perfection, premium mozzarella cheese, bacon, red onion, and BBQ sauce. All piled onto Jets' amazing crust made from dough they make fresh every day. There's also their super special all-meaty chicken bacon ranch and more, all $5 off. Make your day special and order a Jets specialty pizza for $5 off.
Back on the drive with Sam Piper, ESPN Radio 93.5. Derek Piper, Lante, and it is the Jay Lehman Hour, just as every Monday. Excited to do this with Jay throughout the college football playoff, right?
Yeah, through
Correct?
the playoff, through the championship. Yep, we're going to be here. Now, I know some of you guys are like, man, I really want to talk about this Illinois-Tennessee game. Guys, in the hour or two, we're going to get to that.
got it,
They're going to break down. There's nobody to break down basketball better than Pipes.
I appreciate
He travels to Knoxville. He is the basketball guru.
Let's go.
On stuff. And so you got to stay for the 4 o'clock hour. But before I go, I've got to mention my sponsors one more time.
Let's go.
That is Iroquois Federal. They're our title sponsor, second year in the row. They are the one-stop shop for all your banking needs, especially commercial lending. Bob Guido, Mark McHale, and Ryan Lowry are the boss. Brenda Crane for your owner-occupied loans located in Savoy and Champaign. Iroquois Federal, your lending superstore here in Champaign-Urbana. And also Kyle Lewis, Kyle at IPGINS.com. Kyle Lewis, email Kyle right now at kyle@ipgins.com. Auto, home, life, habitational, writes policies for me all the time. Great guy. And, of course, Long Bread Steakhouse in beautiful downtown Clayton, Gifford. Come for the fried pickles and stay for the steak. Let's go. Also want to give a shout-out to the mayor of Philo, Larry Franks. He listens every Monday. They have a coffee club that meets Monday morning, 5:30, I think every day at 5:30.
Big Yankees
And Larry
guy.
is the man, big Yankees fan, has had some great basketball. Matt Franks is his son. Matt Franks is the coach of Unity Basketball. Supposedly they want a kid named Tay to transfer out of St. Thomas More to get back into Unity. I won't say that. Unity plays my Central Maroons on tomorrow night.
They're good. Unity's good.
Now Central, they got behind against Morton. I don't know if you heard about this game. They got behind against the Morton. They come back. That's tied up. They get Morton has the ball 6 seconds. They get a steal. The Champaign Central guy dunks it. Game over. They think.
Wow.
0.6 seconds gets put back on the clock. Morton throws the ball in. Central hacks them. They hit, and the new rule, it's an automatic 2 shots. They tie the ball game and go to overtime. But between the end of the game and overtime, it was a ruckus in Cobb's Gym that this actually happened this way.
My gosh.
I think Central ended up getting beat. Shout out to the Maroons, though, under
awesome.
PJ Keaton, the first-year head coach, doing big things with the Maroons. I think they've got some talent this year. Chris Bush, 6'6". Guys, you think I knew hoops? I'm talking hoops right now.
He's doing it.
Let's go.
Hey, I got to ask you a question. You earlier in the show, you mentioned Britt Miller. That you played next to Britt, right? And you kind of laughed that you weren't able to kind of cover those back. Was Britt able to do that or what?
Well, Britt played in the NFL longer than I did, but he actually got moved to fullback.
Oh, okay. So he was slow too, right?
Britt was astoundingly fast. I mean, you talk about having a gut, but also some wheels. That was him. But he would tell you he had a belly. Britt the belly. So there was a track meet. I think we had the Big 12 track meet at Rantoul High School when Rantoul was in the Big 12, and it was me. I was running the 4x2 or open 200. Justin Harrison was at this meet.
Oh my!
And Britt Miller. Why I'm in a heat with those guys, I'm not really sure. I got so dusted. I mean, I was on an outside lane because I wasn't ranked great.
Yeah.
But the thing about being on an outside lane on a 200 is that you start with a head start.
You're ahead.
But you get hawked down pretty quick. And I just see Britt Miller. I don't say it was a blur. It was more like a blob. That was a blur that passed on my left side. And Britt has got some serious. He's a legit 4'5" guy at his weight and great special teams. He's a better special teams player than me, better all around athlete than me, and a good football player. Better all around football player. That's why he played in the league longer than I did. He could do more than I could. But to have Britt next to me and Antonio Steele next to me, I mean, it was just. I knew that Britt was always going to take care of the tight end side. He was never going to get bullied around, and he could cover a lot of guys in space. Antonio Steele, 210 pounds, he could cover a lot of guys in space too. That's why I'm in the middle, because I just cover a space, not a lot of guys in space. I cover this 5-yard area.
Yeah, just stay right here.
Like in that movie Hitch, where like Will Smith tells the guy, hey, don't dance like this. This is your area right there. That's kind of like me in pass coverage. Don't try to guard the guy like that. We're in pass coverage. I love the guy text line from here, 217-822 says, hey, Jay, we're sorry you couldn't cover wide receiver. However, we're sure glad you're here with us on the drive. Boom. I'm sure it pays as much as the NFL today. I think Brock Purdy's making the rookie minimum at $900,000, right?
Oh, wow.
So, I mean, it's up there. I mean, Iroquois Federal's a great sponsor. I don't know if it's that high. But hey, I'm glad to be here with you guys, too. Guys, by the way, I'm 38, so I wouldn't be playing NFL anyway.
Well,
at this point.
Right.
Tapman's Towing is also a sponsor. Sponsor of the phone line. I don't know if the caller has anything to say about what we were just talking about, but they did want to mention something. So, all right, you're on the air with The Drive. What's up?
Yeah, this is actually Britt Miller from Decatur, Illinois.
Oh, I love that Britt called in.
I'll talk to my boy Jay Lehman. I appreciate the blob. I'm going to see you in a parking lot someday. No, I'll tell you what. Everything Jay says is exactly factual. I did run past him. He did have a huge lead because he was in lane 8, and there's only 6 lanes on the whole track. But Jay, I say this all the time, and we give each other a lot of crap. But Jay was the perfect compliment to Britt, as Britt was the perfect compliment to Jay, because we both had the same enthusiasm. But I will say this, he is exactly right. He didn't cover anybody down the middle. He left Jeremy Macklin and me on an island, so thank you, Jay.
Wow. Yeah, you had to, although they did have some tight ends. Chase Coffin was one of those good, and then the other guy who was pretty good from Missouri.
Oh, yeah.
He was pretty good. I mean, I could only cover a tight end like 5-yard outs. Like that was my jam. Britt always had to take the number 2 receiver down the gut. Oh. Jeremy Macklin, who was
down the pipe.
But I will tell you this, Britt, this is correct. The reason that you could do that is you were a better athlete. The reason you played in the NFL at fullback and special teams is you were a phenomenal athlete. People don't give you credit for what you could run. I mean, I believe it was Lon over here was like, Britt really couldn't run that well. Dude, Britt ran a legit. I'm talking combine, pro day time 4.5.
Yeah.
I don't know what you ran.
Well, they did. It was low 4.5s, 4.52, but
nobody's counting. 4.52.
Yeah,
good enough.
What does it mean these days? Nothing, because guess what? I can run about an 8 flat. But I will say that I was going on to the state track meet after a throw, so I threw shot put at state, threw discus, and then I was on the 4x1 and 4x2. So we're in the finals, and I leave the shot put ring, and I come down to the 4x1 area, the staging area, and the guy asked me, he says, Britt. He said, checking in. I was like, right here. He said, son, are you holding the blocks? He didn't think I was running.
I can see that, Britt. Are you holding the blocks?
No, but I did like to. One of the best stories that me and Jay actually have is from our high school days. And that story was basketball related. So, I was going to jump in, but I let him go because Jay, I love just. I tune into the Big Ten, just see my buddy talking and getting his perspectives. But I will say this, before we move to the basketball, one of the best and most comforting things on the football field is when you got a middle linebacker looking at you and telling you the play before it's going to happen. And I can't tell you how many times Jay did that for us because he's a student of the game. And so I really appreciate that. He put us in good position all the time.
Right.
But basketball-wise, that's not the case. So me and Jay, we're playing at Champaign Central, the old gym, the tight gym, and always a great environment. Like Champaign Central had great fans and great teams and all this stuff. But I get a breakaway, get a steal, and Jay Lehman with his mullet and his headband is tracking me down. So I'm going up for the layup, foul, and one. I believe I made it. If not, I still made it.
Right.
But Jay fouls me. And it started a 5-year trend of Jay stepping on me. So I go down to the ground, and Jay Lehman steps on my lips.
Like Christian Laettner.
So, yeah, stepped on my lips.
On his lips.
So long. Yeah, this is not a joke. He crushed my lips between his shoe and the floor. So I had blood blisters on both top and bottom of the middle of my lips. Yes.
That's horrible.
Yeah, I'm like, really, Jay? My Uncle Matt's coaching and we know each other, all this stuff.
I acted like nothing happened, but...
Well, I'm sure. That's cruel, Britt.
So we get to college, a year later. He's there a year ahead of me. And so I'm always number 2 in line, and Jay's always number 1. That's okay. He's older than me, whatever. And so Jay had this habit of any drill we did, he'd always step back. I'd be too close. He'd step on my toes. And I'm like, I wanted to fight him so many times because you're getting stomped on. Me and Jay's toes look awful because we got stomped on by, Big Ten linemen all the time.
Oh, I can't imagine.
But he was always adding it to me on practice, and I'm just like, I can't take it, Jay. I'd have to stand 8 yards away from him before we start a drill.
That is true. Now let me throw this.
It all started with the lips.
The lips. Let me throw
the lips.
Now people don't realize that me and Britt played again Eisenhower Central. Britt was the only guy on his team for Eisenhower when he was a sophomore. We played a barn burner game 3-2. Central won 3-2
in football.
In football, at Eisenhower.
I thought you switched to baseball or something.
But then when Britt was a junior and senior, Eisenhower got really good in boat race Central, right, a couple times. But I will never forget, Britt shows up to the 7-on-7 as a freshman, and I remember we talked about me wanting to get zooked.
Yeah.
When they first saw Britt, I think that Zook wanted to zook him and be like, is this really our linebacker? Because, he doesn't necessarily look, he's not on the all-bus team, okay?
Right.
All right, he's okay. So anyway, Britt
do not look the part.
Okay, anyway, Britt comes in, he's got like his baseball sunglasses on. He looks cool and stuff. And I've known Britt. His uncle was my offensive coordinator. And anyway, long story short, after the first day of practice, and then the third day, which is like the first day of pads, they're like, oh, yeah, we really want Britt. Britt's the guy. We're not going to zook that guy. Because the dude could play. He was covering receivers and blowing people up. He ends up starting as a true freshman. Britt does.
Wow.
He goes from wanting to be zooked when they see him come off the bus to being a starter. And I'm like, that's the crazy part. Like, and so that's the funniest story is like, you do not judge a book by its cover. Because he is a flash. The blob to blur. The blur blob. He can go.
He said, Britt the Belly, this is not a joke. One of our longtime teammates, John Asamoah, calls me the night before we play. So he's playing for the Kansas City Chiefs. He's playing at the highest level. I mean, John doesn't have any mistakes. He doesn't have any errors on his sheet for the whole year. And we got a big matchup coming up. And it's like for us to get in the playoffs or them to get in the playoffs. And he's calling me cracking up the night before a game. And granted, we do talk to our former college teammates in the league.
Sure.
But typically we reserve that stuff for after the game. And I'm like, man, what's John want? So I answer the phone, and he's like, Britt, you're never going to guess what they got you on the special teams like printout as. Like, so you get your matchups the week. They print this dang sheet out, and they got my head on a keg on wheels. Don't let them fool you. They called me the keg on wheels, and I was like, damn, at that time in my life, I was probably true. But they're like, don't be fooled. He's fast.
You're
Like,
right.
that's the only thing they put underneath there. So, John's give me the business, but I went out and had 6 special teams tackles against them just to make sure they knew.
That is odd. Yeah, and by the way, Jay, I knew that Britt was fast, but I also knew he was on the phone. And I wanted to see what kind of bad stuff you would throw out.
You guys set me up. They didn't tell me that they set me up. Just like those number 3 receivers, the Midwest Mike set me up and guard those guys. Well, they set me up from the jump.
You almost took the cheese, Dan Dish style. You almost
took the cheese, bite the cheese. You know me, always coming up, trying to tackle quarterbacks, red line of scrimmage, dumping the ball right behind you.
This is priceless.
That's right.
Oh, man,
I
love
have
it.
wanted to do this. Derek and I both have wanted to do this and get Britt and Jay at the same time on the air. And for some reason today when I sat down and you started talking, I was like, I got to text Britt and see if he's able to call us. This is just fantastic. Britt Miller, you're a good man, my friend.
Hey, anything for Jay and anything for Lonte, you know what I'm saying? So I always appreciate the conversation. I like every now and then, being relevant for about 5 or 6 minutes is always good for the soul.
Makes you feel good, doesn't it, for a little bit?
Yeah, because, me and Jay are going to go home to the kids, and we're going to be dad, and that's going to be about it,
Hey, Britt, my son's going to be playing for the Commodores again this summer, baseball.
Looking forward to it.
I'm going to get a hold of you, and we're going to have a cold one.
Please do. And I'll tell you what, we're out there all the time. Kevin runs a great shop.
Oh, incredible.
He's one of the only other former, professional athletes. Yep. Kevin, he was actually, when I retired, he's the first guy to call me. So Kevin Kozlowski, just one of them guys that, really didn't know me from Adam at the time, and we've developed a pretty good friendship over the years. But, just a guy, local guy taking care of each other. And,
very cool.
Knowing what it's like to retire. And so, Commodores are an A1 organization, and I hope my boys get the opportunity to play for that league as well.
Amen. Britt, thanks so much, buddy.
Hey, thanks, guys. Jay, good hearing from you, brother.
You too, bro.
Hey, you guys have a great day.
Go St. T. All right.
That's right. Go Dogs. Yes, sir.
That was incredible.
That was awesome.
It was everything I hoped for, and especially when you called him a blob. I was like, oh, my God, Jay doesn't know he's just waiting right here on the
you guys set me up, man. That was legit. I give Lon a lot of credit for that. I tell you what.
I saw the phone lighting up in the first
that was
segment,
my
and I was
fault.
like, who's calling? I can't just blind answer.
That was my fault because I told him, wait till we take a break. We're about ready to take a break.
Gosh,
I didn't know because I was talking to you and I kept staring at And then when you were talking, I was texting him, and
I was
like,
doing what you know. I was thinking you were texting Kara back home about certain things. So I was like, hey,
let him go.
Let him go. He's got issues.
Busy.
He's busy. But man, it's good to hear. I wish you guys could have see this track meet though, where he just. I was in lane 8. There were. I think there were 8 lanes because I was not supposed to be in that heat though. I'll tell you that much because I got just totally roasted.
First time I ever saw him, he was the quarterback.
Yeah.
At Eisenhower. And they were down, pinned on like their 8, and he ran. I don't know if they muffed it up or something, but they didn't get the handoff.
Sure.
He just took off and ran 92 yards, and nobody was close to him.
Sometimes when you got a good athlete, the broken play is the best play for a guy like him. And he had breakaway speed, and he just always surprised people. And this is why he was what made him a great special teams player. Well, he's just a good football player in general. He has a really good awareness. But when you're that big and strong, you're fast and you got a nasty attitude. You're the perfect special teamer because you can play guard or tackle on punt. You can even play wing. You could play any of the kickoff positions. You can play punt return, and you could hold your own against guys of varying sizes, and you can run with guys. That's what makes Britt unique and whatnot. So the pride of Eisenhower, I will tell you that much, man. He was a legit Panther, one of the best.
One of the best.
Marvin Harrison. Was his arm?
Oh, yeah.
What?
How good was his arm as a quarterback?
Britt was a good baseball player, too.
Yes.
And so he had an arm. I more remember him for his legs. He didn't have much of an offensive line.
Same here.
Britt was one of those guys that literally could have played any position in high school that you wanted him to. He could have played a lot of positions in football. He probably could have played safety a little bit. He probably, I know it sounds shocking, he could have played fullback, which he did. Could have played tight end, was a little short for tight end.
Right.
But could have done all of those things.
That's unreal. Marvin Harrison Jr., we were going to talk about this. We're running out of time now, but what did you say when you walked through the door today?
There are reports that Marvin Harrison Jr., he has not declared for the draft, right? Has not said whether or not he's playing in the bowl game. There are talks that the Ohio State NIL collective has come up with possibly a $20 million deal to keep Marvin Harrison there. Now, that's possibly that could be 15 games if you make the playoff, right? You play a Big Ten 12 games, Big Ten championship, and then possibly, I take it back, 16 games if you're in the playoff and you could play 3 more games at least, right? And so it's 16 games that would be $1 million over a game, obviously. But what is it? John Paddock won Illinois 2 games.
Yeah.
Probably didn't make any in NIL. Maybe Northwestern Mutual threw him a couple bones, okay?
Right.
Number 2 is this. What is it worth for Ohio State to beat Michigan? $10 million? It's worth a lot, and so I think that's playing into it. This is why I think but here's the big thing. This is why I think Kyle McCord hit the transfer portal. They told him, we don't want you. You didn't beat Michigan. You're not good enough up to our standard. Remember, they're coming off of J.T. Barrett, Dwayne Haskins, rest in peace, Justin Fields, and C.J. Stroud, and then you have Kyle McCord, who is average, good but average, and it's not good enough for Ohio State. And so I think they're looking, I hear Cam Ward's name, the quarterback out of Washington State. I don't think Cam Ward's like that special. I don't think he's a C.J. Stroud or anything. They didn't get Dylan Gabriel out of Oklahoma. He's going to Oregon.
Yeah.
And so who is that guy going to be? I think that's going to be a big thing for Marvin Harrison. Who's going to buy guy? I don't think the starting quarterback is there on campus right now for Ohio State, at least for this coming year. So I think that's what they're going to be. So if it's predicated on getting a good starting quarterback, how much are they going to offer that quarterback to come?
That's just crazy to think now that, like, the Bears or the Cardinals are in perfect spot to get him.
Yeah.
And now we might be punked by his college team.
Speaking of this, Matt Rule says it takes $1 to $2 million to get a good service or quarterback in the portal. Brock Purdy's making $900,000. Wow. So it means 20 or 25 quarterbacks for the top 25 teams in the transfer.
Might as well stay as long as you can.
Making $1 million, okay? And I'll say this. Nebraska. We're talking Nebraska. Not good Nebraska. Running the option Nebraska has Kyle McCord and Julian Fleming, 2 former 5-stars, receiver and quarterback for Ohio State, who are transferring on campus this weekend.
Wow.
I'm like, how are they getting? Must be NIL money.
Just
I don't know.
bringing them in at least.
I think Luke Altmaier is could be a better quarterback than Kyle McCord. But Luke Altmaier with the team of Ohio State, he might be better than Kyle McCord.
Yeah.
You change the jersey out, and it all changes. It's like, he's wearing Ohio State jersey. Like, you got to get that out of your head. Put everybody in a single jersey and see who the best players. A lot of these AP All-American teams, not Johnny Newton, a lot of these all Big Ten teams, if you change the jersey on them, you wouldn't have them as all Big Ten.
Amen to that.
The jersey gives you a lot.
Yeah.
That's why you really know you're the truth if you come from Champaign Central Eisenhower. Let's go.
There you go.
Let's go.
Drop the mic moment before you do drop that mic. Sponsors one more
Yeah,
time. before we get out
Iroquois
of here.
Federal, guys, they don't pay me like they would pay me if I played in the NFL, like one of our text messages, but hey, it's enough to get me to Philo, which I love it, okay? Number 2, Kyle Lewis. Kyle, IPGINS.com. You got to check out Kyle Lewis. He's my personal insurance agent. And, of course, Long Branch Steakhouse. You come for the fried pickles. I bet you Britt's a fan of fried pickles.
Oh, yeah.
And you stay for the steak. Remember, top sirloin, contrary to what Happy Layman has told us, is not the best cut. I prefer ribeye. My wife prefers filet. If you haven't really followed us
Parental
all year,
abuse.
you have no context for that joke. That's why we're like math here. We build on our show as the season goes on. You can't show up to the math lesson in week 9 if you miss week 2 and week 3. Guys, so we break it all down. But stay for the next hour because we're breaking down, they are breaking down pipes and lawn.
Brilliant.
Illinois basketball to a T. What's going on? What went right on the road trip? What went wrong? What can we do moving forward? Is Damascus going to get hot again or is he going to be cold like last game? We hope he's back, right? But let's go. I look forward to talking to you guys next week. You can't get rid of me. Even when football's done, we're not even going to bowl. I'm still here. Let's go.
I don't know how we follow that up. That Jay and Britt was phenomenal.
Britt's final message to me when I thanked him said, Jay's always talking at such a high decibel.
I need a backup from the mic. Sorry. Because when Lon yells, he's a veteran. He goes,
Yeah,
I do.
right,
He backs up, and I don't ever do that. I want to be right in your living room.
Thank you, Jay. Look forward to next Monday.
Let's go.
Awesome.
All right, we're back. Like Jay said, we're talking hoops. Stick with us. This is The Drive.
You're listening to WSJK ESPN 93.5 Tuscola, Champaign-Urbana, your home for the St. Louis Cardinals.
Week when he said publicly that he was willing to make significant compromises on the border in order to secure Ukraine aid.
Fox's Aisha Hasni on Capitol Hill. Former New York Congressman George Santos is trying to make a deal with federal prosecutors who confirmed the negotiations in a court filing. Santos is facing a criminal fraud trial next year and was recently expelled from the House. 2 of the most talked about movies of the year are the top 2 nominated for Golden Globe Awards. Barbie leading the way with 9. Oppenheimer has 8.
Barbie's nods include Best Picture Musical or Comedy, as well as acting nominations for Margot Robbie and Ryan Gosling, plus 3 for its original songs. Oppenheimer nods include Best Picture Drama and for actors Cillian Murphy, Robert Downey Jr., and Emily Blunt. The nominees for Best Television Limited Series, Anthology Series, or Motion Picture Made for Television include Beef, Lessons in Chemistry, Daisy Jones and the Six, All the Light We Cannot See, Fellow Travelers, and Fargo.
Fox's Monica DeLuca. Barbie, by the way, is now tied for the second most nominations in Globe's history, tied with Cabaret from 1972. I'm Lisa Brady. This is Fox News.
We all have a mission in life, something that drives us to explore, to grow, to love. And when we discover it, we're made whole. At OSF Healthcare, we want you to be the best you possible. We're here for you on your schedule to make your life just a little bit easier. Whatever your mission is, we're here to support it. Your life, our mission. Learn more at osfhealthcare.org/mission.
Welcome to Dick Van Dyke Appliance World.
Hi, I'm looking for a refrigerator.
When you buy from us, you get the whole store.
Oh, yeah, well, I just need a refrigerator. Don't need the whole store.
But you get it, the whole store.
My kitchen is only about this big.
You get me.
Hello.
All those delivery, installation, and service technicians in back.
Wow, all those people?
The Dick Van Dyke 5-10-year protection plan, which means in the unlikely event something goes wrong in the first 5 years, your repair cost is nothing.
Nothing?
10 years parts coverage on the major components.
Looks like I'm getting more than a refrigerator today. How much does this whole store cost me?
Nothing.
Come on.
For real. We guarantee to beat any competitor's deal, all that other stuff we talked about, like our service tax.
And your 5-10-year protection plan?
All included.
I'm Dennis Freak and chairman of Dick Van Dyke Appliance World. And when we say you get the whole store, we mean the whole store. Wow!
Dick Van Dyke Appliance World. When you buy from us, you get the whole store.
Urbana Indoor Aquatic Center is a terrific choice during the winter break. Monday through Friday, December 20th through January 3rd, there's public swim hours from 1:30 to 5. Urbana Indoor Aquatic Center, 102 East Michigan in Urbana. Everyone is welcome. Only $6 to swim, $3 admission if you don't want to swim. Remember, a terrific gift this holiday season are pool passes and punch cards. Or if you didn't get a gift that you love, just hit up urbanaparks.org.
When it comes to finding a reliable vehicle, look no further than Sarah Champagne, your trusted automotive destination. They carry a lineup of top brands including Honda, BMW, Subaru, GMC, and Buick. And they're not just about cars, they're about people. Their team is dedicated to providing you with trustworthy service and dependable vehicles that fit your lifestyle. Experience the difference at Sarah Champagne. Visit Sarah, S-E-R-R-A, champagne.com. Here's what one shopper said about Pard's Western Shop in Urbana, 306 North Maple, between Main and University. He said, sure, you can find boots at some big box stores, but nothing like Pard's selections. They're unique, they're local, and they have an excellent store. So many people that visit Pard's in Urbana say the same thing. Pard's in Urbana, 306 North Maple. You can find the best boots in the world and shop local. Visit pards.com, pards.com.
I don't know how we're going to follow that up.
But I feel
we
bad.
have to try every Monday. It's The Drive with Sam Piper, ESPN Radio 93.5.
I always feel bad for Kyle because, like, if we bring him on now, he's at the same mic that Jay was. And it's
Still hot over there, Kyle?
Yeah.
Still on fire?
I had to let it cool a little bit.
There you go. There you go.
A 651 on the U of I Atlanta Link text line said, I'm exhausted from that first hour. I am too, just from laughing. That was just fantastic.
Good move by Lante for getting Britt on the line, and I finally did my work, just hit the button and put him on the Tapman's towing phone line.
Well, it's hard because
we got there.
You didn't know I was doing that.
I had no idea that was going to happen.
Behind the scenes, so yeah, that was fun. That was really fun. Man, you've been, like Jay said, you've been all over the place.
I have been,
like
yeah. I'm trying to get back in the groove here, right? Jeez. 3 states, 3 games in 8 days.
Before we get into hoops galore here and nitty gritty, what were you able to see in New York? I know you kind of mentioned to us on the phone when you joined us Friday. Was that Friday? Whenever you did. You were able to see. Well, I keep saying the tree.
I know we talked Tuesday right before. I was standing outside Madison Square Garden while the cars were going by, and some lady was yelling at people because they weren't looking at the stoplights and the walk signs. People were just walking in front of cabs and Ubers. I know, maybe
you're gutsy in New York if you're going to walk in front of a cab.
That was dumb. I was not doing that, but some lady then was yelling like, "Look up and see the world around you." And this kind of stuff. It's just New York. And it's so congested. But
I hated it.
Yeah,
I was there for a 4-day weekend when my brother worked out of the Marriott there at World Trade Center. That's where we stayed, in that Marriott. And Marriott, I guess is how you're supposed to say it. And so we went out there for 4 days, and I'll tell you right now, Derek, I could not wait to get back on a plane and get the hell out of there. I mean, Chicago is busy. Chicago is really busy.
Yes.
But when I go to Chicago, I feel like I'm in rural America compared to New York. I mean, it's just you are bumping into someone constantly in New York.
Yes.
It's just too many people.
It's too much. And that's why I didn't go out exploring as much this past time as I did the previous. I was out there last year, obviously, for the Jimmy V Classic. We went and saw Rockefeller Center and is it 30 Rock or wherever they do the building they do SNL and that kind of stuff from. And we saw the Christmas tree and we went to Central Park and everything. This year, I went down Monday for media availability at the team hotel, which was cool. And then you kind of see some of the surrounding area. It was in Manhattan. You saw a Christmas tree that I tweeted out. I didn't make my way to Yankee Stadium. I didn't go and do really anything touristy. I went in, took my subway back to Jersey where we were staying, and I just kept it business-like there in NYC. But
that's cool.
Enjoyed some good eats for sure. I had a pastrami sandwich that I tweeted out from Madison Square Garden. It wasn't. I had heard that Katz's was the best. It's really famous, I guess. It was Carnegie Deli that was serving it up, but some good cut of meat on that one for sure.
That would be cool.
New York pizza out there and everything. But I pretty much just ate and watched basketball and wrote and slept. Did that too.
I think if I ever did New York again, it would be during Christmas. I'd want to see. I'd want to see the crowd. For years, I don't know that now that my brother passed away, I'm not sure how often I'll get up to Chicago again. But I used to love visiting Lance in December in Chicago and going down Michigan Avenue and seeing the lights. And it was just fun. Like, he and I would, we'd walk along. We'd see the lights going to, is it Macy's or whatever? That was always the cool. And then we'd just dart into a little Irish pub that was right on the corner, and we'd have a couple beers. And we'd walk another couple of blocks and look at the Nike store and do stuff like that, and then pop into another pub, and so I think if I ever did New York again, I'd want to go when it's Christmas, because I would love the you know me, I'm a Christmas guy, so I would love the lights and the sights. And you still haven't done Broadway though, right?
I have not done Broadway, no.
That was pretty cool.
But yeah, to the note of it, the subway, I'm over. I'm done. I don't want to deal with it. You pretty much have to because of how bad traffic is. Yeah. And I'll tell you before we move on to the actual, basketball.
Well, and there was a subway in the bottom of the World Trade Center.
Yes.
So that's where we would get on. Oh yeah, okay. So that's where we would get. I remember there was a Subway restaurant. And I looked at my brother and I'm like, I'm going in to get a Subway. I just want a sandwich real quick. And he goes, that's weird. I'm like, whatever. But yeah, that's where we would. It's so haunting now with that thing being down.
I know. So when we would take they call it the path, but it's essentially the train/subway from New Jersey to New York. You stop at the World Trade Center station, and then you can pair off and go to different subways to get to different spots. So after Madison Square Garden, we left at I don't know, it was. The lady came around and said, all right, 2 a.m., we're closing this place. It was probably midnight, 12:30. Get out of there, get on the subway. Then you take one. It's late night New York, so, everything is awesome. And then you get to the World Trade Center.
They're just waking up at midnight.
There was a train. There's a path every 50 minutes to go from World Trade back to New Jersey. There was one at 1:10. And we got there by 1:15.
Oh, no.
And so we had just missed that. We either were going to have to wait out another 45 minutes for the next one. I was with Andy Olson from WCIA. Yeah. He calls an Uber. A $90 Uber takes us from there back to our spot in New Jersey. So
what's the traffic like at midnight?
Oh, it's clean city,
okay.
man.
Okay, it's clean.
If you want to drive around New York, I would recommend 1 a.m. on a weeknight, because you can do that pretty stress-free, I would say. But otherwise, yeah, it's nuts.
You hear about the cabs, and I remember just from my one trip, we were running late to get to a Broadway show, and so Lance was like, we gotta hail this cab, and so we jump in, and I swear to God, there were 5 lanes on this main road through New York, and Lance looks at the guy, and he'd worked there for 2 years, so this was like a year and a half into it, so he's pretty familiar with New York. And he's like, hey, we got to get to Broadway. He goes, I want you to take Littrell Avenue over to Sycamore or something. Like, he kind of was telling him where to go. Well, the problem was Littrell Avenue, to get to it, was a stoplight and a half, essentially. So we were halfway down one already. So the second stoplight up on the right, well, that wasn't that far. And here we are in the very left lane. This cab, we were going sideways on a 5-lane road, and I looked down, and the light down there had just turned green, and here come, barreling 100 cars at us, and I'm like, holy, and that guy he barely made it, but into that right lane, boom, took a right, went down, hit Sycamore, and bam, we were there. We got there early. And I looked at Lance, I'm like, dude, kudos to that guy, because he knows what he's doing. But can you imagine going literally sideways on a road, like traveling east and west, when that road goes north and south in New York? And I'm like, okay, I'm not comfortable here.
Appreciate the confidence of that guy. Right. He's either going to get you there or get you killed.
Oh,
but, luckily it was the first one.
That is so cool. That's so cool that you were able to do that now a couple of times to go on this. That's awesome.
That was cool.
I'm sorry. I know we got to talk basketball, but I love those kind of things. I love just hearing about the culture kind of stuff and what you were able to witness and everything out in New York. That's some cool stuff.
For sure. And then it's a different vibe. You get to Rocky Top country.
Yeah.
Knoxville. I would love to go to a football game there. Now, they packed that basketball arena with 21,000 plus, and it was pretty much full. Like I know sometimes you see in attendance, like were they really that at capacity, but it was. And I will give the Rack credit. Like the Rack has had a listed attendance of 8,000, and there were, in terms of more consistent noise. I know in the second half Illinois blew them out, but more consistent noise in the first half, I would say, at the Rack than 21,000 at Tennessee. But you do hear the Rocky Top over and over quite oftenly. But they do the SEC style chants. I don't know. You get the band involved. You just know like I don't know. It's
like they bring the football stadium inside the basketball.
That's pretty much what it was. So I would love to experience that over there at Neyland.
Neyland would be incredible. Is there a Ferris wheel out by Neyland?
I don't know.
Okay, so I went there one time when I was really young for a World's Fair, I swear. I think Mom took us there for a World's Fair, and there was a Ferris wheel outside of the football stadium. Now, I was maybe 10 or younger. I don't even know. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm lying about this. But in my mind, I've always pictured that. And I remember, of course, then I didn't know what Neyland Stadium was and all that. I didn't really probably I knew Tennessee Volunteers maybe. But I've always thought since then, I'm like, is there always a Ferris wheel outside of Neyland Stadium? But I guess not. I guess there isn't, so never mind on that. I wanted to ask you, you said you were working at like 12:30 in the morning or whatever after that game. What's the latest you guys stay at State Farm Center? Let's say an 8 o'clock tip. And
they usually kick us out at midnight.
Oh, it is midnight.
Yeah.
Okay, I wondered that. So because what you're trying to do is you obviously cover the game, then you go to the post game, and I assume in your mind, I'm trying to bring up like my TV days. In my mind, usually when the game ended, I had an idea of which direction I was going with the story, right?
Yeah.
If there was something big that happened, like for instance, this Tennessee game, I probably would have asked Brad or someone, and I'm sure you guys did, about the technical. And in his mind, does he feel like it swayed the game? Because it did. And so that's probably how I would maybe go in a direction if I was doing a TV package on that. So I assume you kind of have an idea of what you're going to write about. But then, different things could happen in postgame. Something could be said in postgame that changes your complete direction where you have to say, well, hold on a second. I got to cover this. Other than that, so is that kind of how it works for you guys? I'm trying to get everybody kind of the inner workings of how you guys cover these games.
Yeah, you have the game, then you go to the post game. Then Jeremy and I do our podcast, which we do live on YouTube. So, and those usually, they'll go probably 40, 45 minutes. So that longer ones for more impactful games, more bigger things to talk about and whatnot. And then it depends. Like if they're playing Fairleigh Dickinson and Illinois wins by 30, I might just take the player grades and I just grade what I saw for each guy and whatnot, and no one ever agrees with it. So there's at least one disagreement always. I think that's good for business to have some good discussion going on there.
It's like you got to pick which one I on purpose ticked you off.
Coleman got a what star? That was actually a real thing after the Tennessee game. But otherwise, I'll have my column or story thought up in my mind, and that's the way you'll go with it. Now, sometimes the things that stink, and I kind of give Brett Behrens and some of the TV guys some crap, is you guys don't got to go back and transcribe everything that Brad said. You can. I know you go back and you clip it up, and you got editing, and I say that in jest. I know you guys got. You got your own.
We got to go through 2 hours of the game and pick out plays.
Oh, that too. I'm sitting back just drinking my Diet Coke and trying to think of something clever to tweet out during the game. You guys are actually shooting where the ball's going and whatnot. So it's just kind of fun to bust each other's chops about.
I bet
the grind of the game.
I've got one other podcast question, and this is embarrassing, but I work in a business that this is what it's all about, podcasts, right? And I still have people say to me, oh, so you do a podcast? I'm like, well, not really. We do a live show, but then it's podcast.
Right.
So I'm like, I don't know what to tell you guys. So kind of
radio
I do.
show.
Yeah. So I don't listen to many podcasts, which is crazy. And if I do, they're like murder mysteries. Like I'm one of those guys, right? I don't listen to a lot of sports, and people that have listened to me for 14 years, they're like, well, that explains it, why he doesn't know anything. But there you go. That's why, because I'm listening to, I probably know more about some Allentown, Pennsylvania murder that occurred back in, 1978 than I do about this. But I started listening to an Arizona Cardinals podcast, right?
Yeah.
And people would text in or whatever they're doing to the show, and they would say, $2.99 Lon joins us from, and at first I was like, what are they saying? Then I was listening to you guys, and all of a sudden, it was the former photographer. I can't think of his name. He sent you guys like $25. What is this? I can't think of his name. He's been on our show before. He's a good dude. Great photographer. He used to shoot for Illinois and stuff, but and I'm like, so people send you money? How does this work? Like I'm
just started this year.
Okay.
It's called a super chat where you can, because obviously you get the chat going and people can ask questions or comment or get in fights in there, amongst themselves, and it kind of gets buried sometimes if you're trying to ask a question. But a super chat is going to be something that pops up,
moves you right to the top,
moves right to the top of the queue. It's like if I'm in a bar and they got one of those, you maybe have not done it before, you get the app.
Oh, I did with when the Blues won the Cup with Gloria.
There you go.
Oh, yeah, I was always the top of that. I'd pay extra to get the Gloria.
You get the app. You can pay extra to skip everybody else in line and play your Gloria song or my Drake song and whatnot. And so that's kind of what the Super Chat is. It's also just like them kind of saying thanks for what we do, but
I agree.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to have to do that sometime now because I do appreciate what you guys do. I'm a member, obviously, of the Illini Inquirer, but I was like, am I missing the boat here? I'm like, are you guys sitting there going, well, gosh, Lon never super chats?
No.
So it's probably better I don't, especially after some games.
You don't have to.
You probably wouldn't want me to. I've always said, I think DWS, I think they do a great job with the games and the post games and all of that. I could not do a post game show because, number one, I would probably anger most everyone after I already offended most everyone, and nobody on the basketball or football teams would ever talk to me again. So it's probably better that Lon,
because the emotion side of it is
kind of goes and sits by himself in a room and relaxes. Yeah. I'm not a very good loser. I'll put it that way.
I get it.
That's one of those. Yeah. Mm-hmm. No, it was not Mike. It wasn't Mark Jones. Not Jonesy. Great guy, by the way. Runs the Arthur Fireworks. We're going to have him on sometime. Before that, I asked Kent Brown. I said, hey, I need Mark Jones's number. I want to have him on. Just what an interesting life. Like he was the team photographer. I think who I'm thinking of, and wow, I can't think of his name. He was not affiliated with Illinois. I apologize, but he took a lot of pictures of Illinois games, and so. That's who it was. But no, not Mark Jones. Mark Jones, great guy. I don't think he still does it, right? He's retired.
I don't believe so.
Yeah, he's got to be. I think he's been retired a while. Okay.
All right, there you have it. There's the sights and sounds of Off the Floor for the life of Derek Piper, whether you would care to hear that or not. But it was, let's talk about the actual game.
I got
coming
one more.
Up. All right.
How is Haley?
She's good. She's doing well.
Are we 11? No.
Man, she's
11. You can't go 11 months, Lon. What the hell am I thinking?
8.
What's the gestation period of
8 months?
12 years.
We got 1 month to go. A month and some change to go.
She's to the point where she's like, "Get it out."
Yeah.
Get this thing out of my body.
And it's tough with me being gone a lot here recently.
Sure.
We're still waiting to. I think tonight we're going to decorate our Christmas tree. So,
well, that's cool.
I got some catch up to do.
Put Polar Express on, and
yeah, there you go.
Cade will be happy.
My son loves
with that.
watching The Grinch, so we play that pretty much every day.
I love how they lock into one show.
Yeah.
And then, that's so funny. Well, it's like me. I mean, I haven't outdone that. Now, whenever I do Christmas, it's Christmas Vacation.
I still need
and
to
I'm
see
like
that.
a 2-year-old kid. I just lock right in. I'm like,
I can't wait.
Oh, yeah. I might do it again tonight.
4 Christmases, I think, is the only one I've watched so far.
Okay.
Haley and I.
I love Christmas. Mm-hmm.
No doubt.
All right. So
let's
anyway,
talk about
Haley's doing okay.
She's doing good.
Okay.
Yeah, she's doing good.
That's important.
The 16th ranked Illini coming up next. Let's discuss their loss in Knoxville. They go 1-1, split last week between 2 ranked tests against top 20 opponents. They beat FAU. They lose to Tennessee. But a decent start to December for sure for Brad Underwood's squad. We'll break down what we saw in that game and just overall feelings about the Illini as they have a week off before playing Colgate this upcoming Sunday after finals. If you want to weigh in, you can. 217-359-2255 on the U of I Illini Link text line. This is The Drive.
Are you tired of getting the short end of the stick and always being stuck with cold water for your showers? Dogtown Heating, Air, and Plumbing is here to help. With current tax incentives and rebates, you can save up to $900 on a high-efficiency tankless water heater, unlimited hot water, and saving on your energy bills. It seems like the best gift you could give your home. With the current promotion of 0% financing for qualified applicants, you can't afford not to call. 217-841-4728. Dogtown Heating, Air, and Plumbing, your home's best friend.
When you're buying a battery, it's important to look beyond just the price and make sure you're buying a quality battery. So when you're buying one from the big box store, make sure you ask the question, what's the date on this battery? Is it dependable? Sometimes the big box stores have batteries that have been sitting on the shelf for years. Or you can just come to Interstate Batteries, outrageously dependable, and buy your battery from the people who only do batteries. Interstate Batteries at 2504 North Madison, Champaign, way out there, but totally worth the drive. How much is dependable worth to you? Interstate Batteries, open 6 days a week.
Get the roof your home deserves by Roof Doctors, your residential roofing specialist that has always offered the best warranties in the industry, like our non-prorated 50-year warranty. Our customers love that we are family-owned and locally operated. We make our customer needs our top priority. With over 30 years experience and the best customer service, give Roof Doctors a call today for your free estimate at 328-7529. In your community and for your community, Roof Doctors.
Don't miss your chance to cheer on Fighting Illini basketball this season.
Deafening in here, 15,000, another sellout.
We need all of Illini Nation to help us defend State Farm Center.
And Illinois overcomes their largest deficit of the season.
Great seat locations are still available for you to see Illinois basketball live this season.
The Illini win it!
Get your tickets today at fightingillini.com.
Crossroads Contractor Supply specializes in the delivery of tools and supplies within a 150-mile radius of Champaign-Urbana. Reliable, timely, and with reasonable prices, Crossroads Contractor Supply knows what equipment and tools are needed for your job. Their slogan, we have it when you need it. Get the job done right with proper tools and equipment. Did something break? Construction materials as well as safety equipment, all available. Call 402-8123. Visit CrossroadsContractorSupplyIL.com.
Hi, this is Chris Jackson with Kramer Siding and Window. And whatever your project, you can count on Kramer Siding to offer you the best products backed by the best warranties in the business and a lifetime of great customer service. And right now, you can save 10% on roofing, sunrooms, and decks, get 15% off gutter helmet, and you can save 25% on preservation siding, windows, and doors. So call today or visit us at kramersiding.com and let's get started on your project.
Are you looking for something this holiday season for your customers that can say thank you from you, but at the same time showcase your business and their support? The hunt is over. We offer custom wrapped coolers and lasered mugs, tumblers, water bottles in all shapes, sizes, and colors. Call us at Aftershock, 833-DECAL-IT, or look us up online, AftershockDD.com. That's AftershockDD.com.
Hi, I'm Mike Anderson. When my wife and I first started dating in the summer, we would go see all the local fireworks and enjoy the patriotic celebrations around the 4th of July. Champaign County Freedom Celebration had the best show with a synchronized patriotic soundtrack, plus the evening program Enjoying Music in Our Lawn Chairs by Memorial Stadium and the parade late morning by the State Farm Center. We've cheered on runners with the 5K that goes along the parade route at 9 a.m. It's always very moving hearing the national anthem play as we watch the flag wave in the breeze. It felt good to be a part of this local American tradition that's been around since 1949. July4th.net is the website for the end of the year giving as you support this premier patriotic party. Please mail your tax-deductible donation soon. Learn more at July4th.net.
We're good. We're really good. We're really good. We got a really high ceiling. This is a brand new team. we're really good. We're really high character. I love our ceiling. I think it's not even close to being touched. It's nice to see Q do what he's done. Justin Harmon was terrific in the Garden. We've played 2 ranked teams away from home. We've played a Rutgers team that's a league game and a nemesis and one of the best defensive teams in the country. And we've done it all in 7 days. And, we've traveled, we've spent time in New York City, which is never easy. We're going to be really, I think we got a chance to be really good. I never say that, you know me.
Back on the drive with Sam Piper, ESPN Radio 93.5. The whole crew's here today.
Yeah, how about that?
Yeah, what's up? Nice Dolphins hoodie, by the way, Kyle. I like
Appreciate it.
Yeah,
got to rep the
pretty
Dolphins
sweet.
playing Monday Night Football tonight.
Kyle has been like the stone of the show for like the last couple of weeks.
Mm-hmm.
I was gone for a week.
You've been stoned for a couple of weeks, Kyle? Jeez.
Is that what you do? You don't go to the bars? You just... I should have told your parents that.
Don't put that out on
I
the
shouldn't
air.
have said that. My fault. I was just joking.
Kyle is the most
I know.
innocent and fine young man you will ever meet in your life. My mom approved of him within 1.5 seconds, if that tells you anything. So, yeah, whenever we say stuff about Kyle, we always kidding. Hey, now a place, though, we could go have a cold one soon is Pia's, because they're great for us, obviously. We do a lot of shows there during the football season. We need to do one during basketball.
We should, yeah.
And pick a game maybe that starts at 7, then you and I can go and have some fun there. But although that's not very fun for you because then you've got to go leave and work.
I have fun talking there and discussing with people. I can't have as much post-game fun when there's a game afterwards, but that's not about me.
Well, it's not about me, dang it. But Pia's they do this every year, the Pia Claus, which is a big Christmas party, and it's a 2-day event. I love how that happens. So it's this Thursday night from 5:30 to 9. 5:30 to 9. There'll be gifts. There's holiday food spread. They'll have drink specials. And then Friday morning from 7 to 10 a.m. So I don't know if they've got a cot there. You can just stay, just hang out and just get up in the morning and go. I'm sure they'll have maybe some breakfast food in the morning there, obviously. So that Pia Claus, it's the Christmas party again. It's this Thursday night, 5:30 to 9. Eric and Chad do a great job with all that. And then Friday, December 15th, 7 to 10 a.m. So a lot of guys work overnight. I mean, I remember when I was young, I told this story the other day. Maybe, did I say it on the air? If I did, I'm sorry. But I remember Dad and I walked in like at 11 a.m. or like 10:30 one time to a bar, and we were going to eat lunch. And there were like 6 guys sitting there drinking. And, I was like maybe in high school or getting close to high school. And when we left, I looked at Dad and I'm like, do people really drink this early in the morning? Like, that can't be good for them. And he's like, well, Lon, those guys work a night shift at wherever. I don't remember what the business was. So they get off at like 7 a.m. So their 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. is like our 7 p.m. to 10 p.m., and that's why they were in there having a beer. But I remember at the time it bothered me. Like, you shouldn't be drinking at 10:30 in the morning, sir. So now I'm out here at 7 a.m.
And how you grown up since then?
Now I'm one better. I'm out there at 7 a.m.s at
10
tailgates.
a.m. What are you doing? What are you waiting for?
Lon, it's probably not good that you're drinking at 7 a.m. You mind your own business.
Yeah.
I'll be the judge of that.
Well, you heard Brad Underwood coming into this segment talking about how good he feels about his team up to this point. They're 7-2. They rose a couple of spots in the AP poll today up to number 16.
Okay.
Illinois dropped, though, the game against Tennessee on Saturday, 86-79. They were leading at halftime. That was crazy. The fact that Terrence Shannon and Marcus Demas struggled as much as they did, and yet Illinois still held a lead at half. That's a credit to Quincy Guerrier getting off to a fast start.
Yes, sir.
Coleman Hawkins made some shots as well. Luke Goody played well, particularly before halftime. But Illinois falls short. It was a competitive game, one that saw a bajillion free throws there in the second half, but I do feel like the better team won there on Saturday, at least on that afternoon.
I'm with you.
If it was played in Champaign on a different day, could Illinois beat them? Absolutely. But that was a good Tennessee team, one that was hungry, having lost their previous 3 high major games. And any time that Terrence Shannon and Marcus Domask combined to go 7 for 27 from the field, it's going to be tough for Illinois to win. So not one that I'm too disappointed about at all. I think it would have been nice to, between Marquette and Tennessee, really the 2 premier teams you've played, I think there's a little bit of a different – there's a separation a little bit in between those 2 and FAU, although I think FAU is very good. If you could have beat one of the Vols or the Golden Eagles to put on your resume. But for the most part, to be 7-2, to have gone 2 out of 3 on your road trip, I feel pretty decent about that. I know that Brad spoke to that as well coming in.
I just think as well as and as almost as perfect as you played in that second half, especially against FAU, I worried about – I don't know why. I don't know why we do that. You're in a completely different state. It's 4 days later or whatever it was. It's like, why am I worried that, well, you played really well, so now it's time for you not to play that really, not that well.
Yeah.
But that's exactly what happened with guys like Domask and Shannon and this Illinois team in general, which shot like 60-some%, right, against FAU, and then nothing could go down in that game against Tennessee. I felt like, Kyle always is on this point about 3-point shots, so I'll even bring him in on this. I felt like you resorted to last year's offense a little too much, right, in terms of, and I know you're always pleading for them not to take as many threes, and I feel like this season when they've taken threes, they've done it when they should, if that makes sense. In that game, they completely stopped trying to get the ball in the lane. Now, granted, Tennessee's got a lot to do with that. They are a strong, physical defensive team that does not allow you, a.k.a., or I don't know if that's the right way to put it, as an example, Terrence Shannon, who loves to get downhill and just could not against Tennessee. That team reminded me a little bit on the perimeter of that Baylor team a few years ago when they were so strong. And you remember when Io could not get where he wanted to go. That's frustrating to you. So what happens is you just take the next best thing, and that's a 3 from 23 feet. And it's like, okay, guys, after they missed like 10 in a row, the establishment I was at, everybody was like, enough, quit shooting. And it was one of those where I'm like, they've got to get somehow to the rim. You cannot die in this game by just shooting threes and not getting to the rim, not getting to the line. And, it was a while there. Well, and then the second half was completely different. But I'm like, it was amazing that Illinois had a lead at half.
It was.
But Coleman made some – I tell you what, I felt like they did, and then I'll shut up and let you guys go. I felt like Illinois in that game, the first half, they hit every big shot they needed to make. Like, you could tell the momentum was sneaking away, and then Coleman would hit a 3. Or someone else
Gary A. hit a
Gary A., that's exactly right. To where you could almost sense like, oh, man, this would be a big time to score right now. Because there's 21,000 there. Tennessee's up 4 right now, and they're on a little bit of a run. And then, boom, Illinois would connect. And I'm like, whoa, it's a big shot. And so I worried about that continuing in the second half, and it didn't, obviously.
Right, yeah. Terrence hits that early mid-range pull-up, and I believe that was his only basket of the first half.
Unbelievable.
And Gary A. is able to make a couple of early threes. They weren't really respecting him as a shooter, and the numbers – leading into that game, as far as his three-point struggles, you can understand why they were cheating off him a little bit. But he was able to make people pay. Coleman, I know Coleman's going to have some. If you're going to do the pros and cons of a Coleman Hawkins game within a game, right. All right, he's gonna throw it away on this play. He's gonna maybe take this step back shot, but there's usually going to be some good and bad, and there was. But the good is that he got his 3-point shot going, and I thought for the most part it was a pretty good Coleman game. I think it was a step in the right direction, especially offensively. I know he ended up going 4 for 13, but some misses down the stretch kind of muddied up and uglied that stat line a little bit. But you needed him to step up and make those when guys like Domask, guys like Shannon weren't able to get going. So I do give Tennessee a lot of the credit for what they did to you with their defense. The fact that, yes, they had lost and they'd given up. They gave 100 to UNC. Right. They lost to Purdue. They lost to Kansas, but they were facing a lot of high-level big men in that stretch. Dickinson killed them. Edey, Baycott had his game, and UNC was just making shots from all over the place. I do agree, though. One of my criticisms of this Illinois team is that there are times when Shannon is the only guy who consistently drives the ball. Who consistently gets into the teeth of the defense, that can break down a defense and force that opponent to react. And they did react a lot because there are screen grabs. You can go back and if you watch the replay and just hit pause on your TV, there are like 4 guys in the paint around Shannon a lot of times. And then, they're not respecting Ty Rodgers. They're not respecting, or they're just making the gamble that, hey, Gary A, maybe he'll make another 3, but we're just not going to give Terrence, his easy shot at the basket. And they're one of the teams, to your point, and I wrote about it after the game, athletically and physically, like strength-wise, can match Terrence Shannon. I thought that Baylor that year could match Io's quickness, and they didn't let Io get where he wanted to go, which so many teams couldn't do. They couldn't stop him from what he wanted to do offensively. So when Io goes, I think it was like 6 of 18 from the field that game. They just really were able to bottle him up. Tennessee bottled up Terrence Shannon. I don't know how many other teams can do that to him. There are probably count them maybe on one hand.
You're right.
But that was one of those teams. And Illinois not having a point guard to get into that pain and do it. Just Ty Rodgers was really non-existent. Didn't even attempt a field goal. I know I shot a couple of free throws, but and not to pin it all on him, but just the fact that you don't really have another guy that consistently get into that teeth of the defense. I know that Tennessee wants you to come in there and try to challenge them, but I felt like Illinois, like you said, settled for too many threes. And there was a stretch in the second half where 7 out of their 9 field goal attempts during a 5-minute span were from 3, and they made none of them, and that was really the difference of Illinois either going to get back into it or let Tennessee extend it out to double figures, and that was all she wrote, and we know which way it went.
If Ty Rodgers plays 4 years at Illinois, it's going to be interesting to see how we then judge his game when it's all said and done. Because I can point out a lot of warts in Ty's game, but I can also point out a lot of things that he does very well that you love having on that court. Toughness, rebounding.
Sure, yeah. Defense
for sure. But it is interesting. I think, in other words, how can I sum this up? When he's bad, he's really bad. Is that fair? In other words, he's almost non-existent, and to the point of I'm not sure why he's on the court right now. But
well, yeah, it's kind of like DeMonte Williams before he found that jump shot the year he led the country in three-point shooting.
That's a great analogy.
There was, 10 straight games where he didn't score in a Big Ten slate? So.
And then the other thing is Damas. Now, I think Shannon is always, we know this, is always going to have the pressure of being the guy every night, and he's fine with that. And most nights I think it's going to turn out fine for us. Damas has got to be more consistent than that. And I even said, as fun as that was, him getting 33, I mean, that was awesome, right? I mean, as a Saluki myself, my chest was out. I was like, yeah, heck yeah, baby, he can play in this league or in this level. But yet, then you can't turn around and do what you did against Tennessee. And I understand he had some shots that didn't drop, but he just looked a step slow the whole game. Not that he is a step slow, whereas times that he is. He just looked like that. I mean, everybody died. Andrew had one of those games the other night where it felt like every loose ball was right out of his reach. Or, just stuff like it happens, right? It happens in the game of basketball. You're not always going to be perfect with that. But I was thinking to myself, I'm like, I said this out loud. I don't think anybody was listening to me because nobody really does during games. My boys tune me out. I mean, it's just pretty simple. But I said to nobody in particular, I'm like, I'd rather Damas get me 16 against FAU and 16 against Tennessee. Like, I feel like he has to be you have the known in Shannon. And I think the broadcasters even mentioned this during that game against Tennessee. Illinois' got to have 1B. You've got 1A in Shannon. You've got to have 1B. And I think it's got to be Damas. And so for him to explode like he did against FAU, that was awesome. But then essentially to not, I mean, there were times during that game where I was like, get him out. You got to get Damas out of this game. He's killing you. Like, he's no threat to score. And again, like, loose balls were just right by him, and I'm just like, boy. Like, my dad used to have an answer for this when the St. Louis Cardinals would win a game, at Wrigley, let's say on a Friday, and come out the next day and get beat 10-0, and he's like, well, obviously the Cardinals weren't at the bars all night. Obviously the players went and drank all night in Chicago. Like, I know Damas doesn't even do that, right? He's just not that kind of a kid, but I kind of had that funny thought, like, oh, Damas must have really partied hard this week because he didn't show up today, but obviously he doesn't even do that. Believe me, I know that for a fact. I think you gotta have, and I look, those are 2 games, and I'm not panicked at all. I think he's going to be just fine. But I think a consistent effort out of Damas is going to be very important for success for this Illinois team.
No, that's a great point, because I think that Coleman probably isn't going to get there. I think we're probably not completely written it off, but in terms of consistency, that just has not jived with who Coleman Hawkins is offensively.
Right.
And while last year you might have said, all right, he's on some mock drafts. If he comes back, can he be that Robin as Matthew Meyer goes away? Can he be the Robin to Shannon's Batman and be maybe more consistent? You would have hoped that, but now that we've seen the sample size extend out, I just don't feel like Coleman's probably going to be that. Now, hopefully he can build on making some threes there against Tennessee. But, yeah, I think it's got to be Marcus. And there were some times where he got some of those favorable matchups in the mid-post against that point guard. Ziegler, who's 5'9", and wasn't able to do a whole lot with it. 2 651s text on the U of I Line text line saying my biggest criticism of Coleman's game was that he had a guy a foot shorter on him in the paint and didn't even try to take the ball up once, more than on one occasion. So that's just not really Coleman's game either. I think that Illinois wasn't able to exploit some of those matchups that they were hunting out. And then they just obviously relied on threes, as going to the rim wasn't working for Terrence. And then Terrence even kind of said, all right, I'm going into a brick wall here. I'm just going to stand on the perimeter and take my jump shots there. I also think Illinois' inability to get enough stops hurt them in terms of playing fast the other way. When you face an elite half-court defense, you want to be able to, who on the offensive end has had their struggles scoring. Like, that's kind of been the MO of Tennessee through the last couple of years. Like, top-notch defense, but can shoot, build a town of bricks if you make them shoot. Illinois couldn't get enough stops. Then, all right, get the rebound, get Terrence in the fast break, and make it so where he's driving to a guy chasing him versus he's driving to 4 guys set up in the paint waiting for him.
Yeah, no, that's a excellent point. I know someone, 217, brought up about Illinois could be tired. Listen, that whole setting, 11 a.m. game, you're on the road, you just went to the East Coast, you're in finals. I mean, Luke Goody the other day, you didn't hear this, it was probably one of the best. Wait, who was with us? Oh, Jason Thompson was here. And he asked him about how tough that is, and Goody went, you should hear the explanation he gave. I don't know if you went back and heard that. Just about how he had 2 finals and he had this and blah, 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 blah. And all of that, that's not an excuse. That's not an excuse. But all of that
pointed. All you throw in Tennessee was kind of desperate.
Yeah, right. Well, exactly.
They needed it.
Exactly. So when you throw all that in, I guess in my mind, I'm able to take that loss a lot easier, kind of understanding all the variables around it. I mean, first of all, I don't care what day or how rested, it's hard to go beat this Tennessee team there. I mean, it's just that simple. And it would be hard on the flip side for Tennessee to come beat us here. But if Tennessee just did all that travel like they did, I mean, that might explain, they were in Maui, blah, 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 might explain a lot about that North Carolina game for them.
Right, yeah.
When they just kind of – but listen, I thought Illinois had some fight. I'll tell you another thing. Is Luke Goody better this year than you thought he'd be?
So far, yeah, for sure.
I mean, we picture Luke as our three-point guy, right? And he's good with that. And I'm good with him taking as many as he can get up. He's doing some things this year that are really noticeable to me on the court that are positive. I mean, defense, he's better than I thought. Rebounding, he's better than I thought. I mean, I love his leadership. I mean, you can just tell. Man, Luke has just really stepped up.
Yeah, they lost a lot of the battle for 50-50 balls, but I felt like Luke coming in there in the first half was part of Illinois getting enough stops to get back to where it was even and then take a lead at halftime. I mean, he finished with 7 rebounds. I think he might have had 6 at half, 5 or 6 at half, and has been someone that you can pencil him in for 2 or 3 threes any given game. That's been very consistent. So I like that a lot about him. I think he's going to have his limitations defensively against some guys. Like, there are going to be some athletic teams, or if he gets switched onto quicker guards, where Luke Goody and Marcus Damask just aren't going to be able to stay in front as often. I do think that he's probably more solid on the grand scheme of it defensively than maybe he gets credit for.
Mm-hmm.
But I like what he's been able to give, especially in terms of a consistent three-point shooter. But, I mean, he's definitely one of those effort play guys. I mean, he had 2 steals.
Yeah.
Also, when I'm looking up at the box score here from Saturday as well. But, I think that he's been someone where you kind of want knowns. You want to go through and say, all right, beyond – as we're building this around Shannon, even if Luke's – he's not that 1B, but if you know that Luke's going to give you some threes and some rebounds and some hustle plays, and Justin Harmon's going to splash in some toughness and a couple of putbacks and whatnot, and just kind of build that thing around, the more – knowns you can have around that star, the better Illinois is going to be.
Great point. Jay asked U of I Line Lake text line, does Tennessee play at Illinois next season? That is correct. Yep,
yes.
It's a home and home. Brad loves those. He said that before the game. I was listening to the pregame, and he said that he loves those. I think it's like December 12th. I don't know why. I don't know why I know that, but I saw something that showed that. I want to talk more this week about Illinois basketball, and we can. I want to make sure we hit a couple of things before we get out of here. Juwan Howard, what is going on with that?
So that blew up rumor-wise last night on Twitter. I obviously am not tapped into the Michigan scene and can't comment officially on like what I know for sure. I've heard, and it's been reported, I know Brendan Quinn of The Athletic put out there that there was some kind of exchange between Juwan Howard and then their strength and conditioning coach, to where the strength and conditioning coach was not in attendance at Michigan's game yesterday at Iowa. So it happened late last week.
Ooh.
There was a little bit of at least as we know, a altercation and exchange
with the strength and conditioning coach.
With the strength and conditioning coach.
Like, he'd be the last dude that I would go after.
Is it John Sanderson? Is that his name?
Kyle?
I
think so, yeah.
Sanderson's his last name for sure. I know that.
Of course, Kyle would know that.
But I know Fletch, like, literally learned under him. So you think about messing with Fletch. You're like messing with the Mr. Miyagi of Adam Fletcher. I would not pick him, regardless if I was
catching flies with
a former NBA player or not. But I know some Michigan reporters have come out and said that they've been told it was not physical, that it was that was not the case. But there's been rumors of the contrary.
Gosh, you would hope not.
It's under review right now. That's something that Brendan Quinn reported, that there's athletic department review of what happened, and so it's kind of like on the in between. If Juwan Howard punched this dude in the face, I don't think he's on the bench in Iowa City yesterday.
That's a good point.
If it was just a shouting match and there was nothing else, I don't think that the strength and conditioning coach is staying home, and that there's an external review. There's a review going on, so there has to be some blurred lines in there that something had to have happened to where it's a little bit more than that. I had heard through some people that I talked to that maybe there was some pushing and shoving and getting each other's faces and whatnot. The interesting part of it, Juwan's under a zero tolerance policy right now.
Like Bobby Knight back in the day.
After the Wisconsin incident a couple of years ago. So what comes to that, we'll see. But I think Michigan fans, even if there isn't like this isn't fight night happening in Ann Arbor, would be fine if you're like, you know what, Juwan, you've had your stuff outside of the game of basketball. Also, our team is not very good, and it wasn't good last year. We're probably fine with moving on.
Interesting.
We'll see how that ultimately goes.
Raise your hand, by the way, if you all started singing Blurred Lines when Derek said that. I even imagined the video of Blurred Lines.
I have to look that up. Maybe I'll do that in the break. We got to catch one more, and then we'll come back and wrap up the show. This is The Drive.
You moved into your new home using 2 men in a truck. The garage was clean. Then,
I love the new recliner. What are we going to do with this old one?
Put it in the garage for now.
over time, this cycle continued.
Garage for now. Put it in the garage for now. Put it in the garage for now. Put it in the garage for now.
It happens. You got junk. Call 2 Men in a Truck to get rid of all your junk. Residential or commercial, 2 Men in a Truck has a solution for your junk removal. Contact them at 2menchampagne.com.
2 men in a truck.
I'm Justin Ike, co-owner of Fred's Plumbing, Heating, Air Conditioning, Electric, and Underground.
So, Justin, tell me what you see as typical when it comes to sewer repair. Give me a scenario.
Your sewer's backed up and somebody comes along and says, you need this repair for X amount of dollars. Here's my price. And you don't think to go looking for another company or a second opinion because you don't feel like you have time.
So is it possible that you might get charged a little more because it's kind of a desperate moment? Do some companies do that?
Oh, absolutely they will. They know you're in a pinch. Typically, if you call us, me or Will can be out there within an hour to look at that problem for you. Whether you call me first or you call me second, make sure you give me a call.
Anything else, Justin?
You can always trust Fred's.
Great to know. Thank you. That's Justin Ike, the co-owner of Fred's Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning, Electric, and Underground. If you want more information about this great 45-year family-owned company, just go to fredscu.com. That's fredscu.com.
You have money laying all around your house. You just don't know it. And no, I don't mean selling your great-grandma's good china. I mean all the old metal items you don't want to use or get rid of. Don't pay someone to haul it away. Bring it into Max Twin City Recycling and get paid to have it taken off your hands. They love new customers and are more than willing to walk you through their process step by step. Come check them out at 2808 North Lincoln Avenue in Urbana.
Starting it over is what we do at Max Twin City Recycling.
Don't miss your chance to cheer on Fighting Illini basketball this season.
Deafening in here, 15,000, another sellout.
We need all of Illini Nation to help us defend State Farm Center.
And Illinois overcomes their largest deficit of the season.
Great seat locations are still available for you to see Illinois basketball live this season. The Illini win it! Get your tickets today at fightingillini.com.
I've got to clean out this garage. Let's see. What's the cheapest and easiest dumpster service in our area?
Here's what I found. The doggy bag.
Think she's broken. I'm not looking for takeout. Siri, try again.
The doggy bag from Bulldog Disposal in Mahomet.
Doggy bag? What's that?
If you got junk that needs to go, but you don't want the hassle of having an enormous dumpster delivered, grab a doggy bag, keep it as long as you need. They'll come take it away. For more information, just visit bulldoggybag.com.
That's bulldoggybag.com.
Finishing up on the drive with Sam Piper, ESPN Radio 93.5. Before we get out of here, I wanted to get Kyle's take on the Illinois-Tennessee game. Illinois dropping that one, still in a decent spot. You're top 20 in the country. Tough place to play, as a 651 noted, and I had also reported this as well. They were now they're 19-2 against high majors over the last 2+ seasons.
Oh, wow.